Okay, so 17 and 18. So we found out that Noah, because he was a faithful servant to God, that he was spared from all of the other people who died in the flood. And what did God say? He did it for their own good. But then he promised that he would never cover the earth with water again. And then Noah and his family ended up populating the whole earth, which a lot of people will be like, oh, that's not possible. Well, he must have made other people. And also, it's very possible. A lot of people see this earth as a very huge place, but it's actually quite small. And with all of the women and children and men that we're continually killing off, it would be much more populated today if it weren't for this horrid thing with abortion. And the Chinese people, you know, they have to kill them a lot. They kill a lot of their babies over there. So we're not supposed to kill babies. There's always a solution to any problem without murdering children. But a lot of these children would not have been born if they were following what God said. But of course they were born, and he knew that everyone was going to sin, and which we have. But it shows us already how this sin affects generations upon generations upon generations. And he killed them all for their own good, right? So why is Abram so special to God? Right? Well, we know that Abram is a faithful servant. Is he perfect? No. But he believes in God. He calls on the name of the Lord. He looks to God for answers. And he spreads the truth about God. He's not worshiping any idols or looking to other people in a godly way or an idealistic way. He is serving God. His heart knows God. Okay, so 17. So we just read that Abram was 86 years old when Hagar bore Ishmael to Abraham. To Abram, not Abraham. When Abram was 99 years old, the Lord appeared to Abram and said to him, I am Almighty God. Walk before me and be blameless. And I will make my covenant between me and you, and will multiply you exceedingly. Then Abram fell on his face, and God talked with him, saying, As for me, behold, my covenant is with you, and you shall be a father of many nations, of people, right? Nations. No longer shall your name be called Abram, but your name shall be Abraham. For I have made you a father of many nations. I will make you exceedingly fruitful, and I will make nations of you, and kings shall come from you. And I will establish my covenant between me and you and your descendants after you in their generations, for an everlasting covenant, to be God to you and your descendants after you. Also, I give to you and your descendants after you the land. He's saying after you, after you're gone, right? The land in which you are a stranger, all the land of Canaan, as an everlasting possession, and I will be their God. And God said to Abraham, As for you, you shall keep my covenant, you and your descendants after you throughout their generations. This is my covenant which you shall keep between me and you and your descendants after you. Every male child among you shall be circumcised. And you shall be circumcised in the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be a sign of the covenant between me and you. He who is 8 days old among you shall be circumcised, every male child in your generations. He who is born in your house or bought with money from any foreigner who is not your descendant. He who is born in your he is 8 days shall be circumcised, every male child in your generations. He who is born in your house or bought with money from any foreigner who is not your descendant. So even if they were bought, they are to be circumcised as a covenant between him and God. He who is born in your house and the uncircumcised male child, which is not circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin, that person shall be cut off from his people. He has broken my covenant. Then God said to Abraham, as for Sarah your wife, you shall not call her Sarai. Remember, I couldn't say it, but Sarah shall be her name. Much easier. And I will bless her and also give you a son by her. Then I will bless her, and she shall be a mother of nations. Kings of peoples shall be from her. Then Abraham fell on his face and laughed and said in his heart, shall a child be born to a man who is 100 years old? And shall Sarah, who is 90 years old, bear a child? And Abraham said to God, oh, that Ishmael might live before you. Then God said, no, Sarah your wife shall bear you a son, and you shall call his name Isaac. I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his descendants after him. And as for Ishmael, I have heard you. Behold, I have blessed him and will make him fruitful and will multiply him exceedingly. He shall beget 12 princes, and I will make him a great nation. But my covenant I will establish with Isaac, whom Sarah shall bear to you at this set time next year. Then he finished talking with him, and God went up from Abraham. So Abraham took Ishmael his son, all who were born in his house, and all who were bought with his money, every male among them, of Abraham's house, and circumcised the flesh of their foreskins that very same day, as God had said to him. Abraham was 99 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. And Ishmael his son was 13 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. That very same day Abraham was circumcised, and his son Ishmael, and all the men of his house born in the house or bought with money from a foreigner were circumcised with him. So does this not make you wonder? Because you see, circumcision isn't all over the world. And many people stopped circumcision. They didn't find that it was useful, right? But this was something that was a covenant a very long time ago with God between Abraham. And he said it was an everlasting covenant, right? Everlasting. So doesn't it make you wonder if you're one of the families who still practice circumcision, if, which we obviously are all descendants of Noah's family, right? But doesn't it make you wonder if your family is not part of this covenant, and that's why it's just kind of in you to follow along with that? Because, listen, what was the purpose of circumcision in the beginning, right? It's proven that these historical things did happen, whether or not people believe in God or Jesus. But circumcision would have never even been thought of if it weren't for this covenant between Abraham and God. It's just like what I have said before. Why is it not okay to steal? Why is it not okay to lie? Why is it not okay to kill? Why is it not okay? You know, if you go through the 10 Commandments, right? Why is it not okay for that? Because These laws were established by God from the very beginning, and they are in us. So if you are living in a nation of thieves, which we basically all are, but some are worse than others, and there are a lot of people that feel like stealing because they were brought up and their families were brought up that way, that it's just a natural thing to do, even though they know it's wrong in their hearts. They feel like they're getting away with something, but it's not true. You're not getting away with anything. You are hurting yourself and your spirit. This is very deceptive. These sins are very, very deceptive, and they are not good for you. But what does he say to Abraham? You walk blameless before me, right? Okay, so and that was the same with like Noah, and when you start to read about the certain people who God picks out, it is not easy to be one of these people who have been blessed with this closeness to God. But what they did was they worked for it. So there are people who are extremely close to God because they have gotten so close that they realize that they feel the gifts of the Spirit the closer they become, and sin has become so easy for them to ignore because the feeling of the blessings of being so close and being a good person far outweighs this the feel good of the sin, right? And these people are those who know God and they respect God and they love God and they understand that they are not intelligent enough to understand Him, but that they need to listen to Him and follow His instructions. Okay, so then the Lord appeared to him by the terebinth trees of Mamre as he was sitting in the tent door in the heat of the day. Let's just go ahead for the heck of it and look up. See, so many people have done this for you, for me, anybody who is interested in this history and where these things are and what these things are. So, and, you know, that's what's great about the computer. There's some bad things about the computer, but there's good and bad in everything, of course. But here we go. We're going to look up terebinth trees of Mamre. Okay? So we're going to... spell that right. Okay, so the Mamre is the oak tree. It says the name of the place in the neighborhood of Hebron, where Abraham dwelt, called also in authorized version the plain of Mamre, but revised version more correctly the oaks of Mamre. The name probably denotes the oak grove or the wood of Mamre, thus designated after Abram's ally. The grove must have been within sight or facing Machpelah. The site of Mamre has been identified with Balet Selta, the oak of rest, where there is a tree called Abraham's oak about 1.5 miles west of Hebron. Others identify it with Ramah, 2 miles north of Hebron. Okay, and then if you want to look where Hebron is, and normally you can just click on it. Let's see. Hold on here. Let's just go to images really quick. Okay, so you go over to Israel. Let's see here. Anyways, and then it's in Israel, but I can't even show it to you anyway, so it doesn't matter. But it will say like a map of Israel today, and then you just look up where is Hebron, and then you just look up the images, huh? But anyway, so if you're curious about all this stuff, because there's a lot of people who are very, they have already like mapped it all out. There's tons of stuff. If you're curious, I have to get Laura reading her Bible again, because she's so smart and she loves to read, but she's never fallen in love with the Bible. But if she did, she would be one of these people looking at everything. Your cousin Laura, huh? Okay, anyways. Okay, so then the Lord appeared to him by the terebinth trees of Mamre, as he was sitting in the tent door in the heat of the day. So he lifted his eyes and looked, and behold, 3 men were standing by him. And when he saw them, he ran from the tent door to meet them, and bowed himself to the ground and said, My Lord, if I have now found favor in your sight, do not pass on by your servant. Please let a little water be brought, and wash your feet and rest yourselves under the tree. And I will bring a morsel of bread that you may refresh your hearts. After that you may pass by, inasmuch as you have come to your servant. They said, Do as you have said. So Abram hurried into the tent to Sarah and said, Quickly, make ready 3 measures of fine meal, knead it and make cakes. And Abram ran to the herd, took a tender and good calf, gave it to the young man, and he hastened him to prepare it. So he took butter and milk of the calf, which he had prepared, set it before them, and he stood by them under the tree as they ate. Then they said to him, Where is Sarah your wife? So he said, Here, in the tent. And he said, I will certainly return to you according to the time of life, and behold, Sarah, your wife, will have a son. Sarah was listening in the tent door which was behind him. Now Abraham and Sarah were old, well advanced in age, and Sarah had passed the age of childbearing. Therefore Sarah laughed within herself, saying, After I have grown old, shall I have pleasure, my Lord, being old also? And the Lord said to Abraham, Why did Sarah laugh, saying, Shall I surely bear a child, since I am old? Is anything too hard for the Lord? At the appointed time I will return to you according to the time of life, and Sarah shall have a son. According to the time of life. Now he's mentioned this twice, right? He said, I will certainly return to you according to the time of life. There is a specific reason why people are born at certain times. Okay, so, but Sarah denied it, saying, I did not laugh, for she was afraid. And he said, No, but you did laugh. Then the men rose from there and took toward Sodom, and Abram went with them to send them on their way. And the Lord said, Shall I hide from Abraham what I am doing? Since Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him. For I have known, in order that he may command his children and his household after him, that they keep the way of the Lord, to do righteousness and justice, that the Lord may bring to Abraham what he has spoken to him. And the Lord said, Behold, because the outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and because their sin is very grave, I will go down now and see whether they have done altogether according to the outcry against it that has come to me, and if not, I will know. Then the men turned away from there and went toward Sodom, but Abraham stood still before the Lord. And Abraham came near and said, would you also destroy the righteous with the wicked? Because the Lord had heard of the sin in Sodom and Gomorrah, right? And he was going there, and Abraham wants to know, are you going to destroy the righteous with the wicked? Suppose there were 50 righteous within the city. Would you also destroy the place and not spare it for the 50 righteous that were in it? Far be it from you to do such a thing as this, to slay the righteous with the wicked, so that the righteous should be as the wicked. Far be it from you. Shall not the judge of all the earth do right? So the Lord said, if I find in Sodom 50 righteous within the city, then I will spare all the place for their sakes. For the sakes of those righteous, he said, he will spare them all. Then Abraham answered and said, indeed now, I who am but dust and ashes have taken it upon myself to speak to the Lord. Suppose there were 5 less than 50 righteous. Would you destroy all of the city for lack of 5? So he said, if I find there are 45, I will not destroy it. It gives me chills because, see, Abraham knows that he came from dust. He is nothing but dust. Yet, and he knows his place, but he's asking God because he understands the path of the righteous man and how important it is that even one righteous man is so important in recovering from the sin of so many others. If you have a righteous person that truly loves God and is seeking his face and his wisdom and his courage and everything, it is so very important to keep that person, right? For all of us, because we have read in the New Testament about how righteousness covers so much sin. Remember? I can't remember the exact words, but we read that it covers a multitude of sin. A multitude, right? That's how it was worded. And he spoke to him yet again and said, suppose there should be 40 found there. So he said, I will not do it for the sake of 40. Then he said, let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak. So Abraham doesn't want God to be mad at him, right? But he says, and who were the 2 that were with God, right? It's so interesting. But he knew who God was immediately. He knew who the Lord was. And he immediately ran to him and said, please don't pass your servant by. That's how close he was to him. He knew who he was. Suppose 30 should be found there. So he said, I will not do it if I find 30 there. And again, and he said, indeed now I have taken it upon myself to speak to the Lord. Suppose 20 should be found there. So he said, I will not destroy it for the sake of 20. Then he said, let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak once more. Suppose 10 should be found there. And he said, I will not destroy it for the sake of sin. 10. So the Lord went his way as soon as he had finished speaking with Abraham, and Abraham returned to his place. So the 2 angels, now the 2 angels came to Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting at the gate. So it was 2 angels that were with the Lord, it seems. Okay, so 18 and 19, exciting. Have a good day. Boy, I look terrible, but anyways, have a good day.